I'm Steph Davis, and I'm here at Indian Creek with the backcountry.com crew, and we're going to talk about how to choose the right ropes for climbing. So with ropes, you have basically two options. There's static ropes and there's dynamic ropes. Dynamic ropes stretch, static ropes don't. For most climbing use, I would say all-purpose lead climbing, that's sport climbing, cragging, multi-pitch climbing, ice climbing, top roping, you want a dynamic rope that has stretch. But when it comes to technical utility purposes, you need a static rope, and that's going to be hauling, rigging, jumaring, occasionally top roping, so it's a little more specialized. So if you're just starting out in climbing, you definitely need a good all-purpose dynamic rope, and most people go for a slightly thicker rope in that case, which is going to be a 10.5 to 11 mil. It's going to be a little heavier, but you can lead with it, you can top rope with it, and it's going to have a lot more durability, and it's going to be more confidence inspiring just because it's thicker. So if you have your good workhorse heavy rope, I would say the next thing you might be interested in checking out is a medium rope. And across the board, this is going to become a really standard rope for most climbers. This is in the category of 9.2 to about 10 millimeter diameter. So what you get is you get a little lighter weight, still thick enough to have abrasion resistance and to be durable, but not so heavy when you're carrying it in your pack or even for multi-pitch climbing. One thing to keep in mind, the weight of the rope isn't just the weight in your backpack, which of course matters, but it's also the weight of the rope out under you as a leader. So here at Indian Creek, you get these 160-foot pitches. I'm definitely going to choose a lighter rope because at the top of the pitch, it becomes hard to even clip the beaners when there's too much rope out under you. So that's the give and take. So when you're doing multi-pitch climbing, long routes, things where you're always pulling the rope up all the time, red pointing your hardest sport route, then you're going to want to go a little thinner in diameter and make that compromise. So the third diameter of dynamic ropes that we use is thin ropes, and this is about 7 mil to, I would say, about 8.5. Usually these ropes are used together as a twin rope system or a double rope system, and this is going to be for things like ice climbing, alpine climbing, really wandery traditional routes. Okay, so once you've decided which category of thickness you're looking for in a rope, you're going to have to decide the length that you want and make some decisions about the sheath. Usually ropes come in 50, 60, 70, and 80 meter length. Used to be people would always buy 50 meters and that was plenty. Now 60 meters is more standard. I would actually recommend purchasing a 70 meter length because over time the ends tend to get beat up and then you can chop them off and you've still got a 60. So it kind of saves you from buying a new rope so quickly. Sometimes people want an 80 meter rope because there's really long pitches, and again, I mean, it's heavier to carry, but if you're sport climbing, may as well buy an 80 meter because you know for the next couple seasons you can keep chopping the ends off and save your rope for a longer time. The other question you have to decide is if you want to have a dry coating, which means that they put a coating on the rope so it doesn't get wet. And the other option is to get split color, which is half the rope is one weave and half the rope is the other weave. Personally, if I'm going to use the rope for multi-pitch climbing, a lot of them come with this middle marker that's been done with, it's kind of hard to see, with like a black pen. If you really want to always know where the middle is, for sure, no mistake, I prefer to get the bicolor. I think it's totally worth it. Static ropes are not good for lead climbing because they don't stretch, but this makes them really useful for many other things. If you have a thick one like this, anywhere from 9.5 to 11 millimeters, this actually, if you have a dedicated top roping rope, static rope would be great. It's also really good for jumaring, it's good for hauling on a big wall, it's good for rigging. Say you want to shoot photos of someone from above, you need a good workhorse, heavy static rope. There's also the thin static lines, which are really useful for hauling and for tag lines. This is a really thin one, this is about 6 mil. Personally, I like to use this for a tag line if I'm leading a really long pitch and I don't want to get marooned up there with no contact to my belayer. I'll take a really thin one like this that isn't heavy pulling down on me. If I'm climbing a multi-pitch route and I think we might have to rappel, again, if weight is an issue, I like this really thin one. So with statics, the bottom line is diameter for what your use is going to be. I would say for the work rope, for the hauling, Jumaring, they get really heavy pretty quick when they're thick, but I've found over time that it's a lot more fun to Jumar on a thicker static than a thinner static. And then as far as tagline use, just make sure that you match it up to the length of the lead rope that you're planning to use it with. So if your lead rope's 60, get a 60-meter tagline, same thing if it's 70. So that's all the basics on how to choose a rope. If you have any other questions, hit up the gearheads at backcountry.com and they have all the answers.